Before we begin, this is not another feel-good book. What you're about to read is being called uncomfortable, confrontational, and life-changing, often by the same person in the same breath. If you're looking for something easy, close this now. If you're ready to rewire everything, turn the page. The day everything changed. Marcus had exactly $47 in his bank account, a car with a cracked windshield he couldn't afford to fix, and a job interview in 45 minutes. He sat in that parking lot, engine running, staring at his reflection in the rearview mirror, and made a decision that would alter the entire trajectory of his life. He didn't pray for money. He didn't call someone to borrow gas cash. He didn't spiral into the anxiety that had been chasing him for 3 years. He said out loud to his own reflection, "I am exactly the person they need." And then he walked into that interview and got the job. Now, here's what most people get wrong about that story. They hear it and think, oh, positive thinking. Cute. He got lucky. They're missing the entire point. Marcus didn't get the job because he said magic words in a parking lot. He got the job because over the previous 8 months, he had systematically rebuilt his mind from the inside out. He had rewired neural pathways that were running on outdated, self-defeating programming. He had eliminated mental toxins that were silently poisoning every decision he made. He had installed a new operating system, one built for performance, resilience, and relentless forward motion. The parking lot moment wasn't luck. It was the output of a system, and that system is exactly what this book will give you. Your mind is either your greatest competitive advantage or your most expensive liability. Right now, as you absorb these words, your brain is firing across billions of neural connections, creating pathways that will determine the quality of every decision you make, every relationship you build, every opportunity you either seize or watch walk past you. Most people are completely unaware that they're operating with a mental framework specifically designed to produce average results. They've inherited a cognitive operating system assembled from fear, comparison, early childhood conditioning, and decades of unconscious programming. And they've never once sat down to question it. This book is that question. By the time you finish these pages, you won't think the way you do right now. You will have a complete, actionable system for transforming your mental architecture, one that the world's highest performers have been quietly using for decades, while everyone else wonders why success seems to happen to other people. But I need to be honest with you up front. This is not passive content. This is not something you absorb by listening while you fold laundry. This is mental training, and like every form of real training, it will ask something of you. The question is whether you're ready to give it. The hidden architecture of your mind. Here is the most important thing anyone has ever failed to tell you. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses them. The vast majority of people on this planet believe their thoughts simply happen, that they're passengers in their own minds, watching negative ideas flood their consciousness like weather moving through a valley. Helpless, reactive, managed by mental events rather than managing them. This belief is not just incorrect, it is the primary mechanism through which potential is destroyed. Your brain weighs approximately 3 pounds. It contains somewhere north of 86 billion neurons. It processes sensory information, emotional signals, and abstract thoughts simultaneously at speeds that make the most advanced AI systems look primitive. And it does all of this while also running every automatic function keeping you alive: heartbeat, digestion, immune response, without asking for your conscious input. Here's what makes this extraordinary machine genuinely revolutionary. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly constructed one. When you think a thought with clarity and emotional intensity, your brain releases identical neurochemicals, activates identical neural pathways, and produces identical physiological responses as if that event were actually occurring in physical reality. This is not metaphor. This is measurable neuroscience. It explains why elite athletes who spend time mentally rehearsing their performance show improvement curves nearly identical to those who only physically practice. It explains why people who rehearse catastrophic scenarios in their minds develop the same cortisol spikes, the same immune suppression, the same cardiovascular stress markers as people facing genuine emergencies. Your thoughts are biological events. Every single one of them is reshaping your body, your brain, and, through your resulting behaviors, your external reality. Now, here's the discovery that changes everything. Neuroplasticity. For most of the 20th century, the scientific consensus held that the brain was essentially fixed after early childhood. Neural pathways were permanent. The mental programming you developed in your first decade was the programming you were stuck with for life. It was one of the most expensive errors in the history of science. Your brain is not fixed. It is not static. It does not finalize its wiring at any age, under any circumstances. Your brain is plastic, meaning it is actively, continuously, physically reorganizing itself in response to your thoughts, experiences, and repeated behaviors. Every time you think a new thought, you create a new neural pathway. Every time you repeat that thought, you thicken that pathway, making it faster, more automatic, more dominant. Every time you consciously interrupt a negative pattern and replace it with a constructive one, you are literally rewiring your brain. But neuroplasticity cuts both directions. Repeat negative thoughts long enough, and you build superhighways of negativity. Neural infrastructure so well developed that pessimism, self-doubt, and victimhood start to feel like your personality rather than a pattern you accidentally trained. The brain doesn't evaluate, it reinforces. Whatever you run through it most frequently becomes the default setting. This is why genuine positive thinking is not about pretending problems don't exist. It's not affirmations on a bathroom mirror that contradict everything you actually believe. True cognitive optimization is about becoming the architect of your mental programming instead of its unwitting tenant. The process operates through 5 distinct steps. Step 1. Awareness. You cannot change what you cannot see. Right now, most of your thinking is automatic, running on invisible rails laid down by years of habit, early experience, and unconscious modeling of the people around you. The first intervention is simply noticing. What is your mind actually doing when left to itself? Most people are genuinely shocked by the answer. Step 2. Interruption. The moment a limiting or destructive thought surfaces, you must act on it immediately. Not tomorrow, not after you finish what you're doing, but the instant you catch it. Negative thought loops gain momentum through inaction. You are the circuit breaker. Step 3. Replacement. Interruption alone creates a vacuum. Vacuums are unstable. Your brain will fill them with whatever pattern is most familiar, which is usually the one you just interrupted. You must actively install the replacement, a specific, meaningful, emotionally engaged positive thought aimed at your actual goals. Step 4. Repetition. New neural pathways require consistent reinforcement. One day of positive thinking rewires nothing permanently. You need daily practice, the same commitment, the same regularity you bring to anything else you've made non-negotiable in your life. Step 5. Emotional engagement. Thought combined with intense emotion creates the strongest neural changes. When you're genuinely excited, authentically grateful, deeply committed, those emotional states act as neurological amplifiers. accelerating the rewiring process dramatically. Research across multiple institutions has confirmed that people who consistently practice optimistic, forward-focused thinking show measurable improvements in immune function, cardiovascular health, stress recovery, and longevity. They achieve their goals with greater consistency. They recover from setbacks faster. They attract more opportunity, not through mystical magnetism, but through a simple, profound chain reaction. Thoughts to emotions to actions to results. Change the first link, and you change everything downstream. Detoxifying your mental environment. Your mind is under constant assault. Every single day, without your permission, your mental environment is being contaminated by the content you consume, the conversations you participate in, the company you keep, and the stories you silently tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. Most people have become so accustomed to this contamination that it feels normal. They don't notice the weight anymore because they've always carried it. But here's the critical distinction. Normal and optimal are not the same thing. Peak performers don't accept normal. The first toxin: media consumption. The average American currently consumes over 7 hours of media daily. Across that 7 hours, the overwhelming majority of content is engineered to trigger fear, outrage, comparison, and inadequacy, not because content creators are malicious, but because human neurology is wired to respond to threat more intensely than to possibility. Fear captures attention. The media industry understood this decades ago. When you watch coverage of disasters, violence, and social conflict, your nervous system responds as though those events are personally threatening you. Cortisol floods your system. Your immune function suppresses. Your cognitive capacity narrows. Your emotional baseline drops. You are literally poisoning yourself with other people's crises. The prescription isn't moderation. It's a radical detox. Limit news consumption to 15 minutes per week, focused exclusively on information that directly affects decisions you need to make. Unfollow every social media account that reliably leaves you feeling behind, resentful, or inadequate. Stop treating anxiety-inducing content as entertainment. Replace that bandwidth with educational podcasts, long-form interviews with builders and thinkers, books written by people who have done what you want to do. You control what enters your mind. This is not optional. It is the first act of mental sovereignty. The second toxin: social environment. You are, with mathematical reliability, becoming the average of the people you spend the most time with. This isn't motivational rhetoric. It's behavioral science. The people around you shape your expectations, your vocabulary, your risk tolerance, your sense of what's possible, all largely beneath the level of conscious awareness. Negative people execute this influence through several mechanisms. They validate your limiting beliefs, making mediocrity feel reasonable. They redirect your attention from solutions to problems. They discourage ambition through the quiet tyranny of being realistic. They generate emotional turbulence that disrupts the clarity you need to think and act well. You don't have to cut people off dramatically, but you do have to conduct an honest audit. Who in your life consistently drains your energy? Who discourages your aspirations? Who models a way of thinking and living that you don't want to replicate? Reduce exposure strategically and increase time with people who challenge you. Believe in your potential and model the mindset you're building. Seek mentors who have already navigated the terrain you're entering. Join communities organized around growth rather than comfort. Read biographies of people who built something extraordinary, not to idolize them, but to internalize how they thought. The third toxin: self-generated negativity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. For most people, the most consistent source of mental pollution isn't the news, isn't toxic colleagues, isn't a difficult childhood. It's the voice inside their own head. Worry is mental energy spent preparing for problems that, statistically, almost never arrive. Research consistently shows that roughly 95% of what people worry about never materializes, and the 5% that does is almost always less severe than anticipated. Worry produces no solutions. It prevents no outcomes. It simply burns cognitive fuel that could be invested in forward motion. Self-doubt is not humility. Humility acknowledges uncertainty while still committing to action. Self-doubt uses uncertainty as a reason to never act at all. Every high performer you've ever admired has felt uncertain. The difference is they treated uncertainty as preparation fuel, not a stop sign. Negative self-talk is the most insidious toxin of all. Most people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to anyone they care about. You're not smart enough. You always mess this up. Who do you think you are? That voice, repeated daily over years, becomes the foundational. Programming your subconscious builds its entire decision-making architecture around. The moment you catch that voice, you must respond to it the way you'd respond to a friend spreading damaging misinformation about someone you love. Challenge it. Replace it. Refuse to let it run unchecked. The fourth toxin: living in the rearview mirror. Past-focused thinking keeps millions of people trapped in circumstances that no longer exist, replaying footage of failures, embarrassments, and betrayals as though repeated viewing will somehow change the ending. Every time you mentally rehearse a moment of failure, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with failure. Every time you replay rejection, you condition your nervous system to anticipate it. Every time you hold on to resentment, you allow someone who may not even remember the incident to continue shaping your daily emotional experience. The antidote is not denial. It's intentional resource allocation. Your past is not a residence. It's a library. You visit it to extract information, lessons, patterns, insights, and then you leave. You don't live there. Create a deliberate ritual for releasing the past. Acknowledge what happened. Extract every available lesson. Extend forgiveness to yourself first, to others when you're ready. And consciously redirect your mental energy toward the future you're building. The present moment is where power lives. The future is where your potential lives. The past is where your lessons live. Use each for its correct purpose. The architecture of belief. Your beliefs are the invisible software running every visible aspect of your life. They determine what you think is possible. They filter which opportunities you notice and which ones you look straight past. They decide which actions feel available to you and which feel reserved for other kinds of people. They construct the ceiling above which your achievements won't rise, not because the ceiling is real, but because your belief that it exists makes it function as though it is. Here's the mechanism. A belief is simply a thought you've repeated so many times, with enough emotional reinforcement that it has achieved the status of fact in your mind's operating system. But the feeling of truth and actual truth are completely separate phenomena. Most of your foundational beliefs were formed before you had the cognitive development to evaluate them critically. A parent's offhand comment, a teacher's dismissal, an early failure that got assigned a permanent meaning, a cultural message absorbed so gradually it never triggered conscious examination. These raw inputs, processed by a child's mind that couldn't yet interrogate them, became the bedrock of your adult self-concept. And since then, those beliefs have been running the show. The self-fulfilling architecture beliefs operate through a feedback loop of devastating elegance. If you believe you're not capable of financial success, you unconsciously avoid the risks, conversations, and investments that lead to financial success, which produces evidence that confirms the original belief. If you believe you don't deserve fulfilling relationships, you tolerate dynamics that confirm that unworthiness, and the belief strengthens. The loop doesn't care about your conscious desires. It serves your dominant beliefs. But here's what breaks the pattern. Since beliefs are constructed through repetition, they can be reconstructed through different repetition. The architecture that limited you was built, which means it can be rebuilt. Step 1. Belief identification. You can't renovate what you can't see. Begin noticing your automatic responses. When you face a significant challenge, what is your immediate internal reaction before you have time to manage it? When someone presents you with a major opportunity, what thoughts arise before enthusiasm can organize itself? When you imagine pursuing something you genuinely want, what doubts surface first? Those automatic responses are the fingerprints of your beliefs. Your language patterns reveal them too. Pay attention to your habitual phrases. I could never. That's not realistic for someone like me. I'm just not the type who. Each of those phrases is a belief wearing a sentence as a disguise. Also, examine your results. Your current circumstances are largely the architectural output of your current beliefs. Where you're consistently not achieving what you want, there is almost certainly a belief blocking the action required to get there. Step 2. Belief evaluation. Once identified, interrogate the belief directly. Is this actually objectively true, or is it an opinion, an assumption, or an inherited story? Does this belief move me toward my goals or away from them? Does it open possibilities or close them? Does it make me feel capable or inadequate? Most limiting beliefs fail every single one of these tests immediately. They're not objectively true. They discourage action. They close possibilities. And they generate exactly the emotional states that make action hardest. Step 3. Belief replacement. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does your mind. Remove a limiting belief without installing its replacement, and your mental architecture will default back to what it knows within days, sometimes hours. Empowering replacement beliefs share specific characteristics. They're stated positively rather than as the absence of something negative. They emphasize capability and trajectory rather than current limitations. They're specific enough to feel real rather than abstract enough to feel like wishful thinking. I'm not good with money becomes, I'm actively developing financial intelligence, and my decisions are getting sharper every month. I always fail in high-stakes situations becomes, pressure is the environment where I've learned my most valuable lessons, and I'm better prepared than I've ever been. It's too late for me to change direction becomes, every year of experience I've accumulated gives me an advantage that someone starting from zero doesn't have. Step 4. Reinforcement through evidence. New beliefs need evidence. Don't just assert the new belief, actively collect proof for it. If you're building the belief that you're capable of success, catalog your past successes, including the small ones you've been dismissing as unremarkable. If you're building the belief that you're worthy of quality relationships, document the ways you consistently show up as a person of character. Your brain follows evidence. Feed it evidence that supports the beliefs you're building. Step 5. Behavioral testing. A belief that never produces behavior remains weak and theoretical. You must act as though the new belief is already true before you feel fully convinced, because the action produces the results that make conviction possible. If you've installed the belief that you're a confident communicator, speak up in the next meeting, even when your voice wants to stay quiet. If you've installed the belief that you're someone who pursues big goals, take one concrete action toward your biggest goal today, not when you feel ready. Courage creates evidence. Evidence creates belief. Belief enables more courage. This is the cycle that makes transformation real. The neuroscience of mental reprogramming. Understanding why the mind works the way it does gives you a level of leverage that motivation alone never provides. When you understand the mechanism, you stop needing to feel inspired to use it. You simply use it, the way you use a key without needing to feel emotionally ready to unlock a door. Every thought creates measurable electrical and chemical activity across your neural network. Repeat a thought, and the corresponding pathway strengthens, becomes faster, requires less activation energy, eventually operates below the threshold of conscious awareness. This process, called Hebbian learning after the neuroscientist who first described it, is summarized in a principle so elegant it's become foundational. Neurons that fire together, wire together. This is the mechanism beneath every habit, skill, and personality trait you possess. It's also the mechanism beneath every pattern you wish you could change. The negative neural pathways built by years of repetitive, destructive thinking don't feel like habits. They feel like you. They feel like your natural personality, your honest assessment of reality, your baseline. That feeling of familiarity is precisely what makes them so resistant to change, and precisely why understanding the mechanism is so important. You're not broken. You're running outdated software on hardware that was built to be upgraded. The role of emotion in rewiring repetition creates the pathway. Emotion determines its depth. Thoughts combined with intense, authentic emotion produce significantly stronger neural changes than thoughts engaged with neutrally. This is why certain experiences, falling in love, surviving a crisis, losing someone you love, can alter your perspective almost instantly. The emotional intensity bypasses the slow, repetitive process of gradual rewiring and creates change at speed. You can use this mechanism deliberately. When practicing new thought patterns, don't recite them like a grocery list. Connect them to genuine feeling. The actual excitement of imagining your goal achieved. The real gratitude you feel when you let yourself sit with what you already have. The authentic pride of remembering something you accomplished that once seemed impossible. That emotional engagement is the accelerant. The 4 stages of cognitive transformation. Rewiring your mind is not an event. It's a progression through 4 distinct stages, and knowing where you are in that progression prevents the most common reason people quit, expecting stage 4 results while still in stage 1. Stage 1, conscious incompetence. You're aware that your thinking patterns are limiting you, but changing them requires enormous, deliberate effort. Every positive thought must be consciously chosen. Every negative pattern must be actively interrupted. This stage is uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. Discomfort is the signal that new neural tissue is forming. Stage 2, conscious competence. Positive thinking becomes easier, but still requires attention. You're developing real skill at catching negative thoughts quickly. You're beginning to see measurable improvements in mood, in decisions, in results. This stage builds the confidence that sustains the process. Stage 3, unconscious competence. Positive, solution-focused thinking becomes your default. Your brain has built strong enough pathways that they begin operating automatically. Negative thoughts still arise, but they feel foreign, like wearing someone else's clothes. Stage 4, unconscious mastery. Your mental operating system runs on optimism, capability focus, and forward orientation as its natural baseline. This is the stage where compound effects begin to visibly transform every domain of your life. Most people abandon the process during stage 1. They mistake the difficulty of building new neural infrastructure for evidence that positive thinking doesn't work for them, when, in reality, The discomfort is proof it's working exactly as it should. The timing advantage. Your brain is not equally receptive to reprogramming at all hours. During the windows immediately following waking and immediately preceding sleep, brainwave activity shifts into alpha and theta frequencies, states associated with heightened neurological receptivity, accelerated learning, and deep memory consolidation. These windows are your highest leverage reprogramming opportunities. Build a morning protocol that begins before external input reaches you, before your phone, before news, before anyone else's agenda. 10 to 15 minutes of intentional positive programming, affirmations stated with genuine emotion, visualization of your goals as already real, gratitude practice that produces actual feeling rather than mechanical recitation. Build an evening protocol during the 30 minutes before sleep. A brief review of the day's wins, reframing of the day's challenges as instruction rather than indictment, visualization of tomorrow as you want it to unfold, and gratitude for what exists right now. These 2 daily practices, performed consistently, leverage the brain's natural receptivity to maximize the speed and durability of your rewiring. Visualization and mental rehearsal mastery. Every Navy SEAL who has gone through the grueling selection process known as Hell Week has used it. Every Olympic champion who has stood on a podium used it in the months before they got there. Every elite performer who operates at the outer edge of human capability in any field has some version of it built into their preparation. Visualization, not daydreaming, not wishful thinking, not a motivational exercise you do when you feel like it. Mental rehearsal, a precise, systematic neurological intervention that produces measurable performance improvements across every domain it's been studied in. Here's the mechanism again. Your subconscious mind cannot reliably distinguish between a real experience and a vividly, emotionally constructed one. When you visualize something with enough specificity, sensory detail, and emotional engagement, your brain treats it as lived experience, firing the same neurons, releasing the same chemistry, building the same associative pathways. This means you can train your nervous system for confidence, performance, and success before the actual event. You can show up to the meeting, the conversation, the challenge, the opportunity already having experienced a successful version of it thousands of times. The 7 principles of effective visualization. Principle 1. Specificity. Vague mental imagery creates weak neural impressions. Your brain responds to detail. If you're visualizing a successful presentation, don't imagine presenting well in general. See the specific room. See the faces of the specific people you're addressing. See what you're wearing. Hear the specific words coming out of your mouth. The more precise the mental image, the stronger the neural encoding. Principle 2. Emotional engagement. Imagery without emotion is wallpaper. Your subconscious responds to emotional charge, and the most powerful emotions for visualization are gratitude, as though the goal is already achieved, excitement about what that achievement makes possible, and pride in the work that got you there. Feel these states genuinely as you visualize, not as performance. Principle 3. First-person perspective. See through your own eyes, not from outside yourself watching yourself. First-person visualization is processed by your brain as personal experience. Third-person visualization is processed more like observing someone else. The difference in neural impact is significant. Principle 4. Process plus outcome. Most people visualize only the end result. High performers visualize the process of achieving it with equal intensity. If your goal is to run a marathon, visualize not just crossing the finish line but the early morning training runs, the discipline of preparation, the mental management of difficult miles. Process visualization programs the behaviors that produce the outcomes. Principle 5. Consistency. A single visualization session produces minimal neural change. Daily sessions, performed over weeks and months, produce profound transformation. Twice daily is the optimal frequency. Morning sessions prime your mind for the day. Evening sessions activate subconscious processing during sleep. Principle 6. Overcoming negative imagery. Many people unconsciously spend more time visualizing their fears than their goals, rehearsing failure, rejection, and worst-case scenarios with the same neurological effect as deliberate negative programming. You must become aware of your unconscious mental movies and replace them deliberately. Pay attention to the spontaneous images that arise when you think about important upcoming events. Principle 7. Obstacle rehearsal. Positive visualization doesn't mean pretending challenges won't occur. The most effective performers visualize themselves handling obstacles with competence, calm, and creativity. They mentally rehearse staying composed under pressure, solving unexpected problems, recovering quickly from setbacks. This preparation produces the confident adaptability that looks, from the outside, like being unflappable under pressure. Building unshakable confidence. Confidence is misunderstood by almost everyone who wants more of it. The most common misunderstanding: that confidence is something that arrives before action, a feeling you need to have first, so you can then do the scary thing. Under this model, you wait until you feel confident, and you wait, and you wait. This is exactly backwards. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. Confidence is the product of action, specifically the accumulation of evidence that you can handle difficulty, uncertainty, and the gap between where you are and where you want to be. The formula is counterintuitive. You act first in the presence of uncertainty and discomfort, and confidence follows the action as its consequence. The 6 foundations. Foundation. 1. Self-knowledge. You cannot be genuinely confident in an identity you don't clearly understand. Most people lack confidence, not because they lack capability, but because they've never done a serious inventory of what they're actually good at. Conduct that inventory. List your natural strengths, your developed skills, your hard-won wisdom, your character qualities. Be exhaustive. Most people dramatically underestimate their own capabilities because they take their genuine strengths for granted. What comes easily to you may be genuinely difficult for others. Foundation 2. Competence. Confidence without competence is arrogance, which is actually insecurity wearing a costume. Real, durable confidence is built on genuine ability. Identify the skills most critical to your goals and develop them deliberately. Study under people who've already achieved what you're pursuing. Practice in contexts where the stakes are real. The confidence that comes from genuine competence cannot be talked out of you by criticism or taken from you by a bad day. Foundation 3. Preparation. Anxiety largely comes from feeling underprepared. Confident people prepare obsessively, not because they're afraid, but because preparation transforms vague threat into manageable challenge. Before any high-stakes situation, think through potential scenarios, develop contingency approaches, and practice until readiness becomes felt rather than just claimed. Foundation 4. Self-compassion. Many people actively destroy their own confidence through perfectionist self-criticism, speaking to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they care about. Self-compassion is not weakness. It is the sustainable foundation that allows you to take risks, make mistakes, learn from them, and try again without the crushing weight of self-punishment making each attempt feel increasingly dangerous. Foundation 5. Courageous action. Every time you act despite discomfort, you create evidence of your capability. Start in low-stakes environments and build upward. Speak up in meetings, volunteer for the challenging project, have the difficult conversation. Apply for the opportunity that feels slightly beyond where you are. Each act of courage adds to a growing internal record that says, I can handle more than I thought. Foundation 6. Body language as input, not just output. Most people understand body language as something you use to project confidence to others. Fewer understand that the relationship is bidirectional. Your physical posture and movement patterns actively shape your internal emotional state. Stand with your shoulders open, your head level, your gaze direct. Move with intention. Take up appropriate space. These aren't instructions for performing confidence. They're instructions for generating it neurologically. Transforming obstacles into fuel. The defining characteristic of every extraordinary achiever isn't the absence of obstacles. Every person who has built something significant has faced failures, setbacks, losses, and moments where continuing seemed genuinely irrational. What separates them is the mental framework through which they interpret adversity. Average performers encounter an obstacle and ask, why is this happening to me? High performers encounter an obstacle and ask, what is this making possible? That single shift in question changes everything about what comes next. The 8-principle framework principle. 1. Immediate reframing. Your brain will default to threat response within seconds of encountering a significant obstacle. Fear, frustration, avoidance. You must interrupt that default before it gains momentum. The moment you encounter a challenge, ask immediately, what can this teach me? How might this be preparing me for something larger? What opportunities does this constraint force me to discover? These questions redirect cognitive resources from problem dwelling to solution building. Principle 2. Opportunity identification. Every obstacle contains embedded opportunities that are invisible to anyone focused on the inconvenience. A lost job may be the forced catalyst for building something you'd never have had the courage to start otherwise. A failed relationship may be the clarifying experience that helps you understand what you actually need. A financial constraint may force the creative thinking that produces your most innovative solution. Train yourself to look for the opportunity before processing the setback. Principle 3. Strength building. Challenges are not interruptions to your development. They are your development. The specific difficulties you're facing right now are building precisely the capabilities you will need for the next level of what you're building. This isn't reframing for comfort. It's accurate. Every major skill, every important resilience, every hard-won wisdom you possess came through difficulty, not around it. Principle 4. Skill acquisition through constraint. Many of the most valuable skills in any field are acquired not during smooth operation, but under constraint. People who have navigated learning disabilities often become extraordinary teachers because they understand the process of understanding. People who've rebuilt themselves financially develop a nuanced relationship with risk and resourcefulness that privileged people never access. Constraints force competence. Principle 5. Network expansion. Challenges force outreach. When your usual resources are insufficient, you're compelled to reach beyond your current network, to seek expertise you don't have, to form collaborations you'd never have initiated otherwise, to build relationships that long outlast the original crisis. Some of the most valuable connections in your life will trace their origin to a moment when you needed help. Principle 6. Innovation through limitation. History's most significant innovations weren't created under ideal conditions. They were created under constraint. Limitation forces creative thinking in ways that abundance rarely does. When your current approach is blocked, you're forced to discover alternatives. Ask, How could I accomplish this goal with completely different resources? What unconventional approach might work? What would happen if I combined elements that aren't usually combined? Principle 7. Clarity through crisis. Obstacles force prioritization. When resources are scarce and circumstances are demanding, you cannot afford to maintain commitments that don't serve your actual goals. Crises clarify what matters, sometimes more efficiently than years of comfortable living. Use periods of difficulty as diagnostic tools. What am I discovering about what I actually care about? What am I finding is genuinely essential versus merely comfortable? Principle 8. Gratitude for resistance. This one requires the most practice and produces the most transformation. When you can genuinely feel grateful for an obstacle, for the lesson it's carrying, the strength it's developing, the clarity it's providing, you become essentially invulnerable to adversity. Not because adversity stops hurting, but because it stops stopping you. The gratitude advantage. Gratitude is having a public relations problem. It's been packaged as a soft spiritual practice, something you do at the end of a meditation app, or write in a journal with a sunset on the cover, or recite before family dinners. Nice. Gentle. Optional. None of that framing captures what gratitude actually is. Gratitude is a neurological intervention. It is a measurable, replicable psychological technology that, when practiced systematically, produces documented improvements in immune function, sleep quality, decision-making, resilience, relationship quality, and measurable life satisfaction. It has been studied extensively by researchers at Harvard, UC Berkeley, and dozens of other institutions, and the results are consistent enough to have changed how serious practitioners of mental performance approach daily practice. The mechanism is straightforward. Your brain has a negativity bias, an evolutionary inheritance from an environment where the cost of missing a threat was survival, while the cost of missing an opportunity was merely suboptimal. That bias served your ancestors well. In modern life, it means your mind naturally gravitates toward what's wrong, missing, threatening, and insufficient, while filtering out what's right, present, safe, and abundant. Systematic gratitude practice rewires this default setting. When you consistently and deliberately direct attention toward what's working, what's present, what's valuable, you're not being naive or positive spinning reality. You're correcting a built-in perceptual bias toward negativity and training your brain to see the complete picture, rather than just its threat-highlighted version. The 7 levels. Level 1. Foundational gratitude. Begin with the basics that familiarity has made invisible. Shelter, safety, food, functioning health. Feel the weight of these genuinely. Most of the world lacks reliable access to one or more of them. Starting here doesn't minimize your challenges. It establishes the true baseline from which you're operating. Level 2. Relational gratitude. Deliberately acknowledge the specific people whose presence, support, or influence has shaped your life positively. Don't think about this abstractly. Name them. Specify what they contributed. Feel the reality of what your life would look like without them. Then, when possible, tell them. Level 3. Experiential gratitude. Your life has contained experiences that broadened your perspective, developed your character, and created memories that have become part of who you are. Include challenging experiences here, specifically because of what they produced in you, rather than despite the discomfort they involved. Level 4. Self-gratitude. The habit of harsh self-criticism is so common that its absence feels like arrogance. It isn't. Begin acknowledging your genuine strengths, the capabilities you've developed through effort, the ways you consistently show up for others. This isn't vanity. It's accurate accounting. Level 5. Growth gratitude. For every setback you've experienced, there is something it produced in you that straight-line success wouldn't have. Find it. Name it. Feel genuine appreciation for the difficulty that created it. Level 6. Future gratitude. This is the advanced practice, feeling genuine thankfulness for outcomes that haven't yet materialized, as though they already have. This is not delusion. It's directed expectation, combined with the emotional state of completion, which activates subconscious resources toward the goals you're grateful for. Level 7. Present moment gratitude. The present moment is the only location where your life is actually occurring. The past is memory. The future is projection. The ability to feel genuine appreciation for now, regardless of what now contains, is the foundation of a contentment that no external circumstance can permanently disrupt. Social influence and the energy economy. Your emotional state is not a private experience. Whether you know it or not, whether you intend it or not, your internal state is being continuously broadcast to every person in your vicinity through your posture, your facial micro-expressions, the quality of your attention, the words you choose, the questions you ask, and the energy with which you inhabit space. People feel this broadcast before they can articulate what they're feeling. They describe the result in vague terms. She lights up a room. He's exhausting to be around. There's something about her, I can't explain it. What they're describing is real and measurable, the effect of emotional contagion, the neurological phenomenon through which the emotional states of people in proximity begin to synchronize. This means your energy is not just personal. It's influential. Every interaction you have either deposits positive energy into someone's experience or withdraws it. Understanding this transforms how you relate to the world and what becomes available to you from it. The 8 components. Component 1. Emotional mastery. The emotional state you carry into any room shapes the emotional experience of everyone in it. This is not pressure. It's power. When you cultivate genuine positive emotional states through the practices in this book, you're not just improving your own experience. You're becoming someone whose presence is actively valuable to others. Component 2. Mental focus is influence. People can sense what you're thinking about even when you don't express it. Minds focused on problems create environments that feel heavy and stuck. Minds focused on possibilities create environments that feel open and energized. Direct your attention toward solutions and opportunities, not just as a cognitive choice, but as a relational act. Component 3. Physical presence. Open, purposeful, energized body language communicates confidence and creates psychological safety in others. It signals, this is a person who has themselves together enough that you can relax around them. That signal is deeply attractive to people, not romantically necessarily, but magnetically. Component 4. Communication style. Your words are instruments. You can use them to build or to diminish, to open possibilities or to close them, to direct attention toward strength or toward weakness. High-energy communicators ask questions that help people explore their potential. They share information that expands thinking. They speak about people in ways that honor their dignity. Component 5. Authentic enthusiasm. Genuine excitement is one of the most contagious states a human being can inhabit. People are drawn to authentically enthusiastic individuals because enthusiasm makes possibility feel real and proximity feel alive. The operative word is authentic. Performed enthusiasm is detected instantly and creates distrust rather than connection. Component 6. Generous contribution. People feel positive energy most intensely from individuals who give value without immediately calculating what they'll receive in return. Operate from a framework of generosity, looking for how you can add something useful to every interaction, and you become someone people actively want around. Component 7. Quality presence. In an era of chronic distraction, giving someone your complete attention is a genuinely rare gift. When you're fully present, phone away, genuinely listening, asking follow-up questions that demonstrate real engagement. People experience this as profound respect. It creates connection that persists long after the conversation ends. Component 8. Empowerment. The people who have the greatest positive impact on others are those who help others see capabilities they couldn't see themselves. Ask people empowering questions. Point out strengths they're taking for granted. Express genuine confidence in their ability to handle what they're facing. This is leadership in its most essential form. Advanced strategies for peak mental performance. The foundational practices in the earlier chapters will produce substantial transformation for most people. But transformation has no ceiling, and after the foundations are established, there are more sophisticated strategies available that can dramatically accelerate your progress. These are the techniques used by people operating at the very edge of human performance. Strategy 1. Temporal reframing. Most people experience time as a linear, fixed reality. The past is done, the present is what it is, and the future is uncertain. Advanced practitioners learn to use their relationship with time as a strategic tool. Past reframing involves extracting maximum usable intelligence from your personal history while minimizing the emotional damage of unproductive retrospection. Every failure, every setback, every humiliating moment contains information. The question isn't whether something difficult happened. The question is what it's worth. Extract the lesson. Discard the self-punishment. Present reframing involves consciously choosing the meaning you assign to current circumstances. A difficult present moment can be experienced as evidence of permanent limitation or as preparation for future capacity. Both interpretations are available. The one you choose determines what the experience produces in you. Future reframing involves treating your goals as inevitable outcomes of consistent commitment, rather than as uncertain possibilities that may or may not materialize depending on factors outside your control. This isn't magical thinking. It's the psychological posture of someone who succeeds, expressed in advance. Strategy 2. Identity shifting. Your behaviors follow your identity with remarkable precision. You will consistently act in accordance with who you believe yourself to be, which means the fastest route to behavioral change is identity change. Define with precision who you need to become to achieve what you most want. Not what you need to do, who you need to be. What does that person believe? How do they think about challenges? What habits are non-negotiable for them? How do they speak to themselves? Then begin inhabiting that identity now, not as performance, but as a genuine shift in self-concept. Act as that person would act. Make decisions as they would make decisions. Decline what they would decline. Pursue what they would pursue. The behaviors will follow the identity shift with a naturalness that willpower can never replicate. Strategy 3. Energy architecture. Most people manage their time. Peak performers manage their energy and treat time management as a downstream consequence of energy management. Your cognitive capacity, emotional resilience, and creative output are not fixed. They fluctuate significantly across the day based on sleep quality, nutritional timing, physical activity, and the sequencing of demands on your nervous system. Map your natural energy rhythms. Schedule your highest leverage cognitive work during your peak hours. Protect those windows as aggressively as you'd protect an irreplaceable appointment. Emotional energy management is equally important. Identify the people, environments, and activities that reliably generate positive states versus those that deplete them. Design your daily architecture accordingly, not to avoid all difficulty, but to ensure your most important work happens when you're resourced to do it well. Strategy 4. Systems over willpower. Willpower is a finite, depletable resource. Systems are not. High performers don't rely on motivation or discipline to maintain their mental practices. They build environments where those practices are the path of least resistance. Morning routines that trigger automatically. Environmental designs that eliminate negative default options. Accountability structures that create external commitment. Tracking systems that make progress visible. The question isn't, will I do this? The question is, have I designed a system where not doing this requires active effort? Strategy 5. Paradoxical integration. Linear thinking insists that opposites cannot coexist. Paradoxical thinking recognizes that apparent opposites frequently describe different dimensions of the same complex reality: confidence and humility, ambition and contentment, urgency and patience. The most effective people hold these in dynamic balance rather than forcing a choice between them. They're confident in their capabilities while remaining genuinely humble about what they don't yet know. They pursue their goals with urgency while feeling genuine gratitude for where they currently are. Developing the mental flexibility to hold productive paradoxes without needing to resolve them into simple answers is one of the hallmarks of sophisticated thinking. Strategy 6. Metacognition. Most people think. Fewer people think about how they think. Metacognition, the practice of observing and evaluating your own cognitive processes, is the difference between being managed by your thoughts and managing them. It involves stepping back from the content of your thinking to examine the quality of it. Are the assumptions I'm making accurate? Is this the most effective way to approach this problem? What mental models am I applying? And are they the right ones here? This capacity to audit your own thinking in real time is one of the most powerful tools for sustained high performance available. Building your personal transformation. System here is the uncomfortable reality about transformation. Insight is not change. Knowledge is not change. Even motivation, that surging feeling of yes, this time I mean it, is not change. Change is the daily practice of specific behaviors embedded in a thoughtfully designed system, executed with enough consistency that they eventually become your new default operating state. Every person you've ever admired for their mental strength, their discipline, their seemingly effortless optimism, they built a system. The admirable outputs you observe are the product of infrastructure you can't see. Here's how to build yours. Environmental design. Your environment is more powerful than your intentions. Design your physical, digital, and social surroundings to make the behaviors you want to build easy and the behaviors you want to eliminate difficult. Remove physical triggers that activate old patterns. Install visual cues that prompt the new ones. Curate your information inputs to support the mental programming you're building. Restructure your social time to maximize exposure to people who model and reinforce the thinking you're developing. Don't rely on willpower to swim upstream against a current of environmental cues, pulling you back to old patterns. Change the current. Routine. Architecture routines are the skeleton of transformation. They convert intention into automaticity, removing the daily decision-making friction that depletes willpower and creates opportunity for inconsistency. Your morning routine is the most important sequence of your day. It sets the mental weather for everything that follows. Before external input reaches you, before news, social media, anyone else's agenda, spend time deliberately programming your mind. Gratitude practice, visualization, goal review, physical movement, intentional reading. Your evening routine processes the day and prepares the ground for tomorrow. Brief reflection on what went well, extraction of lessons from what didn't, gratitude for the day as it was, and positive programming for the day to come. These bookends, performed daily, create a framework of intentionality around everything in between. Measurement and feedback. What you track, you tend. What you measure, you manage. Without systematic feedback, it's impossible to know whether your efforts are producing results or whether your system needs adjustment. Track your daily practices, your energy levels, your emotional baseline across weeks and months. Review the data honestly and regularly. Make adjustments based on evidence rather than mood. Maintaining your mindset through the long game. The most common form of failure in personal transformation isn't dramatic. It's gradual. Initial enthusiasm produces real results. Those results validate the practices. Then life gets complicated. A difficult season at work, a relationship challenge, a health crisis, an unexpected loss. The practices slip. The slipping feels temporary at first. And then, without noticing the transition, the old patterns have reclaimed their territory. This is the natural rhythm of transformation for almost everyone, and it doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. But understanding the mechanics of long-term maintenance can help you dramatically reduce the frequency and duration of these regressions. Expectation. Calibration transformation is not linear. It doesn't move in a steady, upward sloping line from where you started to where you're going. It moves in cycles of expansion and consolidation, visible breakthroughs followed by periods of integration where progress is real, but less obvious. Knowing this in advance prevents the discouragement that causes people to quit during consolidation phases, mistaking the quieter period for evidence that the process has stopped working. Expect regressions. Don't plan for them, but don't be surprised by them. Each time you notice a regression and return to your practices, you build stronger neural infrastructure than existed before the regression occurred. The comeback is always part of the process. Community and accountability. Isolated practice is the hardest kind. Human beings are wired for social learning and social accountability. We perform differently when others are watching, when we've made commitments aloud, when our identity in a community is connected to our practices. Find accountability partners who share your commitment and will challenge you honestly. Join communities organized around the mental performance principles in this book. Seek mentors who have sustained the practices you're building over years or decades, not just people who've recently started. Purpose. Anchoring. The practices in this book are easier to maintain when they're connected to something larger than personal benefit. When your mental optimization serves your family, your work, your community, or a mission that matters to you, it becomes a responsibility rather than a preference. Clarify what larger purpose your transformation serves. Return to that purpose when the daily practices feel burdensome or the results seem slow. Purpose is the fuel that willpower can't be. Overcoming advanced mental barriers. As your practice deepens, you'll encounter a more sophisticated category of obstacles. These aren't the obvious limiting beliefs and negative thinking patterns of early development. They're subtle, often unconscious, and specifically triggered by progress itself. Fear of success. This is the most counterintuitive barrier. You've eliminated the obvious fear of failure, but now you find yourself self-sabotaging, procrastinating, or inexplicably resistant to opportunities that could produce the results you claim to want. Fear of success has several roots. Fear of the expectations that come with achievement. Fear of identity disruption. Who will I be if I actually accomplish this? Fear of social judgment, and deep unworthiness beliefs that suggest something terrible must follow if life gets too good. Address it through conscious examination. What do you actually believe will happen if you achieve your goals? What negative consequences are you unconsciously protecting yourself against? How realistic are those concerns? And what evidence do you have that success is survivable, that you can handle what comes with it? Perfectionist paralysis. Some practitioners become so committed to thinking optimally that normal human emotional variation, a bad day, a morning of anxiety, a week of self-doubt, begins to feel like failure. They judge themselves for failing to maintain perfect positivity, which generates the anxiety and self-criticism that positive thinking was supposed to replace. Excellence, not perfection. Consistency over time, not flawless daily performance. The standard is trajectory, not immaculateness. Spiritual bypassing. Some people use positive thinking as a way to avoid legitimate problems, uncomfortable truths, necessary confrontations, or authentic emotional experiences. They positive think past situations that require practical action, difficult conversations, or genuine grief. Positive thinking is a tool for engaging with reality more effectively, not a method of escaping it. Real challenges require real action. Difficult emotions require authentic processing. Positive thinking provides the resourcefulness, resilience, and perspective to do those things well. It doesn't make them unnecessary. Feedback resistance. As optimism and confidence increase, some practitioners become resistant to criticism, alternative perspectives, and information that challenges their current approach. This resistance creates blind spots that limit growth and can lead to costly errors. True confidence includes the security to genuinely hear criticism without feeling existentially threatened by it. Invite specific, honest feedback from people whose judgment you respect. Distinguish between feedback that contains useful information and input that is simply discouraging, and develop the ability to receive the former gracefully while filtering the latter. Leading through positive thinking. Leadership is influence, and influence is the output of the thoughts, emotions, and energy you bring into every interaction. When you've built genuine mental mastery, you don't just experience better outcomes personally. You become a force that elevates the outcomes of everyone in your vicinity. This is positive thinking as a relational phenomenon, as organizational culture, as social legacy. Modeling excellence, people absorb what they observe far more powerfully than what they're instructed to do. When you consistently demonstrate solution-focused thinking in the face of genuine difficulty, you're teaching everyone watching how to do the same. Your management of adversity becomes the template others unconsciously reference when they face theirs. Empowering others. The highest form of leadership is helping. People see capabilities they couldn't access before encountering you. Ask questions that expand people's sense of what's possible for them. Point out strengths they're taking for granted. Express genuine confidence in their capacity to handle what they're facing. Celebrate progress, not just outcomes. Creating environments. Leaders design the conditions in which others think and act. Physical environments that promote positive energy and clear thinking. Communication norms that focus on solutions rather than blame. Cultural expectations that treat setbacks as information rather than indictments. Casting vision. People follow leaders who make a compelling future feel real and reachable. Vision that combines specific, meaningful goals with authentic, emotional engagement, that answers not just what we're building, but why it matters, creates the kind of voluntary commitment that management can never manufacture. Living at the level of your actual potential. You've arrived at the end of this book, but the end of a book is not the end of anything. It's the moment where reading stops and application begins. Everything you've encountered in these pages is real, proven, and available to you. Not someday, now. But knowledge alone changes nothing. The gap between knowing these principles and living them is where almost everyone who reads books like this one stays permanently. So let me be specific about what changes from this moment forward. From hoping to knowing. Stop hoping your life will improve and start building the knowledge-based certainty that it will, because you're committed to the daily application of principles that produce improvement. Hope is a starting orientation. Certainty is the operating posture of people who actually get where they're going. From reacting to creating, you are not the product of your circumstances. You are the product of your responses to your circumstances, your thoughts, your interpretations, your decisions about what things mean and what to do next. This is not a comforting idea. It is a profoundly empowering one. From scarcity to abundance. The assumption that success is limited, that someone else's win is your loss, that opportunity is scarce, that your potential is capped by your current circumstances, is a mental framework, not a fact. The people who build the most extraordinary lives operate from a fundamentally different assumption about what's available. From perfection to progress. Stop waiting until you're ready. You will never be ready in the way perfectionists define readiness. Start now with what you have, from where you are. Progress compounds. Perfect conditions are a myth. From isolation to interdependence. The greatest achievements in every field are collaborative. Your highest potential will be reached in relationship, with mentors who have gone ahead of you, peers who challenge you, and people you're positioned to help based on where you've already been. From temporary motivation to permanent transformation, motivation is a weather system, unpredictable, temporary, unreliable as a foundation for lasting change. Identity is architecture. When you've truly shifted who you believe yourself to be, the behaviors that follow your new identity become as natural as the behaviors that followed your old one once were. From personal success to meaningful contribution. The ultimate purpose of developing your mental capabilities is not to improve your personal circumstances, though it will do that. It's to expand your capacity to contribute something meaningful to the people and the world around you. The greater your inner resources, the greater the positive impact you can create. You now have everything you need. You understand the mechanism through which your thoughts reshape your brain. You have the tools to eliminate mental toxins and install empowering beliefs. You know how to use visualization, confidence building, and obstacle reframing as daily practices. You have a framework for building a transformation system that runs independently of motivation and mood. The only remaining question is whether you'll use it. Not someday, not when things settle down, not when you feel ready. Now. Your extraordinary life does not begin at some future milestone. It begins at the precise moment you decide, with genuine commitment, rather than hopeful intention, to think differently, act differently, and become someone who operates at the actual level of their potential. That moment is available to you right now. Make it this one.